world. So, Antoine, is it time to worry about the Bucks after their fourth straight loss?
Yes, it's time to worry about the Bucks. I think when you think about the Milwaukee Bucks and their team and the way their team is built and the structure of their team, they're fairly healthy. I know Jrue Holiday did not play last night, but they're fairly healthy. And I look at the bottom line. I start from the top. I look at Giannis. Giannis is still shooting 29% from the three-point line. He's shooting 64% from the free throw line. So that concerns me going into the playoffs because that's a deficiency of his. He hasn't improved that. Chris Middleton is still a 50, 40, 90 guy, but I still think he's still being too unselfish. He has to be more aggressive. He should be averaging 25 points a game. This is an all-star now. He's right at 20 points a game. So I think they defensively, we saw them dominate two regular seasons the past 2 years where they was the best team in the East and had the best record and really dominate the regular season. This is not the same team. I had high expectations for them. I thought they'd be a lot better. With the additions that they added to their team, they added depth that they didn't have in years past. They got nice depth now. I thought they'll be a lot better. So I am concerned. And that bothers me that Giannis thinks a 4-game losing streak is not a concern. I think seeding could matter in the East a little bit, depending if you get fans or not, playing the Brooklyn Nets. So this is a big, the season is very important for the Bucks. And as you continue to try to build team continuity with the new guys.
For me, I don't think it is a concern. I'm with Giannis here. I wouldn't panic too much. And a lot of your points I agree with, Antoine. I think that defensively is where I do look at them as that being a strength over the last 2 seasons. And then this year, they're being 13th. In the last 2, they were first. So I think that's a point of emphasis. But when I look at their roster and how it's configured this year, they're trying to figure it out, especially down the stretch. In the postseason, we've seen this team try to use this same style of ball with Giannis taking the ball, putting his head down and getting to the paint, and teams just collapsing and completely eliminating that option from them, and Middleton not being able to step up like you talked about. So for me, yes, I think they're trying to find their way, but I also think that last year, they got caught up into seeding. They got caught up into having the best record in the National Basketball Association. And right now, that's not their focus. They're trying to find a rhythm specifically down the stretch in the fourth quarter. Who can we go to? What unit can we put out on the floor? And I know Jrue Holiday hasn't been out there, but I'm not quite concerned because of the teams that they've also lost to outside the Thunder. Chris.
Greg, I know you so cool that you never let him see you sweat, but Giannis can't be as cool as you, all right? He needs to be sweating a little bit. I'm with Twan. I get it. Jrue Holiday has missed 5 games, so he's missed the whole losing streak. So you get him out there, he's your 3rd leading scorer, you're going to be better. But I got major concerns about this team. I think Philadelphia is better. I think Brooklyn is better. And in a playoff series, I wouldn't be shocked if Boston was better than this Milwaukee team. And it boils down to the same thing. I don't care if they were on a 4-game win streak. At the end of the game, they don't have a go-to guy. Giannis is phenomenal. He's great. But at the end of games, they can't give him the ball and say, create something. You look last night, he didn't score in the last 6 minutes. He was 0 for 3. He only took 3 shots. They get Brooke Lopez is getting shots. Pat Connaughton is getting shots. Chris Middleton, of course, is getting shots. Dante DiVincenzo's getting shots at the end of the game because they just can't give it to their main guy, Giannis, because of the jump shooting that he struggles with, as Antoine mentioned, and then the foul line as well. So they got major problems because their superstar player isn't even close to a go-to guy, and that's why I'm so concerned about the Bucks.
All right, let's move on to Boston. Jaylen Brown fueled the Celtics to a win over the Nuggets last night. Nikola Jokic went for 43 in this game, but Tatum and Brown were too much to handle. So, Antoine, are you concerned about the Celtics being contenders or pretenders after beating the Nuggets and getting back to 500? Now, don't be biased, my friend.
I'm usually biased with this, but I can't be biased now. They're not a contender right now. The Celtics are not better than the Brooklyn Nets. To me, they're not better than Philly. and I don't think they're better than Milwaukee. And I know we just try to chastise Milwaukee right there. They're not deep. When you look at the Celtics, their bench production is not very good. They have a great starting lineup. You put their starting lineup against any team in the league. But Brad Stevens is going to have to be creative with this team. If you're not going to make any moves to add to your bench, maybe add a big to help you out. You saw that last night with Jokic having 43. The Celtics don't have a legitimate big inside. I know they acquired Tristan Thompson, but they don't have that bench production that's needed. Everything's in the starting lineup, and they go through long stretches where they don't be productive offensively. So I think that's Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown coming out the game early and going to that second unit. But the big question mark, and I really don't want to grade him until Marcus Smart come back. We know he's the heart and soul of this team. We know when he's there defensively what he brings to this team. So if they get Marcus Smart back, we'll be able to make a more fair assessment and judgment of how far the Celtics can go. But right now, the lack of bench production and depth on this team is really hurting the Celtics.
Yeah, for me, I can be quick here. I think they're pretenders simply because of all the reasons you alluded to. But for me, what stands out most is the bigs, the lack of big and inside presence that they do not have. And when you look at that East, you have to have some bigs. And when you look at Joel Embiid, a team who in the postseason they have owned, but Doc Rivers kind of changes the landscape for that 76ers team. So I don't like this Boston Celtics team just solely based on what their roster looks like right now. You talked about their lack of depth on the bench. And when I see Jason Tatum and I see Jaylen Brown averaging 25, 26, that's great. But who else are they going to have that can score against the Brooklyn Nets? Who they got Harden, they got KD, they got Kyrie, they got so many pieces that you're going to have to put up a massive amount of points in order to be in those games. So I think this team is a pretender.
Yeah, look, they can improve internally. Kemba Walker is not himself yet. You know, he's kind of still working his way back from the injuries. And so I expect him to get better. Twan mentioned Marcus Smart, who hopefully will be back in a few weeks for them from the calf injury. He will make them better. And Jason Tatum talked recently about how coming back from COVID has messed with his breathing at times. And you see his numbers have been down a little bit since he got back from COVID. So I think they will improve internally. But ultimately, I'm with you guys. They're pretenders. I can't see them beating Brooklyn in the playoffs. I can't see them beating Philadelphia. You know, they used to beat Philadelphia because Brad Stevens would out-coach Brett Brown. But now he's not going to out-coach Doc Rivers. So Philadelphia, I think, is better than them. And, yeah, you know, right now I'd say Milwaukee's better. But with their issues, maybe that's the team Brooklyn could beat. But, yeah, I would be stunned. I would be gobsmacked. I like using that word on this show. If Boston came out of the East. So I got to say that they're pretenders.
All right, well, we'll be back talking Bruce Arians. And was he taking a shot at Bill Belichick with his latest comments? We have that next.